So thank you for having me. And today what I want to do is I want to tell you guys a story. It's an unusual story. It's a little bizarre, but it's how my friends and I started a bucket list, and it completely changed our lives forever. So in order to tell that story properly, I need to bring you back, a dozen or so years to when I was just graduating high school. At that point, I was happy. I was happy because I had graduated. I was happy because I had an academic scholarship to a great university in Canada. But the real reason I was happy was because I just made the national U19 rugby team. And this was my dream. Growing up in Canada, rugby is a massive sport. Maybe third, fourth biggest sport behind hockey, and hockey is rugby, right? So I was excited. I played fly half, and for those of you that don't know about rugby, to give you a football analogy, fly half is like the quarterback and the field goal kicker in one position, calling the plays, kicking the field goals. So a lot of pressure. And I was training for the World Cup in France, and I was kicking every day, and I was thinking about my kicks. And then I started worrying about my kicks. I thought, what if I miss an easy kick right in front? What if I blow it on the international stage? And these thoughts would come to me at night, and I started getting anxiety about it. And that led me to not be able to sleep. And this lack of sleep ultimately digressed into a depression. Now, this was something I had never experienced before. I'm someone that has a lot of friends. I love being around people. I'm happy. And all of a sudden, I couldn't leave the house. My parents would drive me to school. I'd sit in the front seat, and they'd drop me off, and I couldn't get out of the car. So we closed the door, and I drive back home. So I dropped out of school. And then I got to the point where I couldn't leave the house, and I couldn't go to practice, so I got dropped from the rugby team. Now, my parents would just beg me to go for a 15-minute walk every day just to get some fresh air because they thought it'd be good for me. So I agree, and I went down the front steps, and when they closed the door, I turned down the driveway, and I'd wait in the driveway for 15 minutes, and then I'd come back and tell my parents I went for a walk. So this was a terrifying time. I didn't understand what was going on, and it wasn't until my friends came and literally pulled me out of the house that summer to take me to a new town to work for the summer that I finally started feeling back to myself and coming out of this fog. I got a job. I felt some self-worth. I met young people that were inspiring, that were doing crazy things like starting their own businesses, or they had traveled around the world. And I started talking about what was going on, for real. And I got back, and I remember driving back from that summer, and I made a decision. I said, you know what? I'm going to make a conscious effort to only surround myself with people that inspire me, that bring me up. And little did I know that decision would completely change the rest of my life, lead me down a path where I learned the greatest lessons I've ever learned. So that's why I'm here to talk with you guys today. So I came back to Victoria, BC, where I grew up, and I surveyed my friends, and not many people checked that box of being inspiring. But there was one kid I knew from the neighborhood. His name was Johnny. Now, Johnny I knew two things about. He's a filmmaker, and he took my sister to prom. So I was conflicted. But I reached out to him and said, Johnny, let's make a movie. And he said, yeah, you know what? I was just talking to my friend Dave about this. He'll be in. And I called Johnny's older brother, Duncan. And Duncan was in. And the four of us got together and we started talking about this movie, and we had no idea what the movie was going to be about. We just knew we had all these things that we wanted to do, but for some reason we hadn't done them. And then Johnny was in English 102 at McGill University and got assigned as required reading. Sound like Wajah Wabbit. Well, maybe I'll do the whole talk like that. I can't even do it. Required reading. There we go. The Buried Life, which is a poem. A 150-year-old poem. And he said, guys, check out this poem. And there were 4 lines that spoke to him. He said, but often in the world's most crowded streets, but often in the din of strife, there rises an unspeakable desire after the knowledge of our buried life. He said, guys, this poet is articulating this feeling that we can't articulate, that we have all these things that we want to do, but they're buried. They're buried by school, by work, by the day-to-day. And we have these moments sometime we're inspired, but then ultimately those things get buried. And so we said, okay, right then and there, we're going to take this name, and we're going to call this movie that we don't know what it's about. We're going to call it The Buried Life. And then we thought, how do we unbury ourselves? And we decided to ask ourselves this question: what do you want to do before you die?